Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in today's newscast, 52-year-old pastor allegedly murdered by her brother. Kingston Technical High School student charged with murder. Constable charged with murder of his girlfriend slapped with additional charge. Damage to agricultural sector to reach over $300 million. Government taking more steps to prevent illegal and unregulated fishing practices. Courtly Hospitality Group's managing director named Caribbean Hotelier of the Year. In the region, Trinidad and Tobago police shoot and kill 4 of 7 gunmen after home invasion. And further overseas, approximately 430,000 homes and businesses in Florida still without power. And in sports, chartered accountant and financial expert reportedly set to become new General Secretary of the Jamaica Football Federation. We begin this evening with the news that the 17-year-old student who fatally stabbed her schoolmate at the Kingston Technical High School has been charged with murder. She is to appear in the family court on Friday. The update was confirmed by Head of Operations for the Central Kingston Police Division, Deputy Superintendent DSP Linval Phoenix. The 17-year-old female student was charged following a question and answer session yesterday afternoon in the presence of her attorney, Kimberly Whitaker. The attorney said her client is, quote, understandably devastated at the turn of events, end quote. On September 29, fifth form student Michian Campbell was stabbed to death during a confrontation with her schoolmate on the school's compound. It's reported that gossip triggered the deadly confrontation. Since the incident, staff members and students have been receiving grief counseling and support. The St. Anne police are investigating the murder of a 52-year-old pastor Monday night. The pastor was allegedly murdered by her brother. The deceased has been identified as Michelle Roach of Content. The incident occurred about 11:45 at Miss Roach's residence. It is reported that Miss Roach and another family member had gone outside to investigate a malfunctioning light bulb when she was attacked. She was stabbed multiple times and her throat slashed. She was pronounced dead at hospital and her brother was later taken into custody. And a man was shot and killed at a garage and car wash along River Bay Road in Montego Bay, St. James, Monday afternoon. He has been identified as 30-year-old Robert Young, otherwise called Andre, who was a tiler of New Ramble in Bog, St. James. Reports are that about 12:45 p.m., Young drove a gray Toyota Corolla motorcar to the 777 car wash and garage to see his mechanic. While at the location, he was attacked and shot by a lone gunman who reportedly ran from the scene and escaped in a waiting motor car. The police were summoned and found Young lying in a pool of blood with multiple gunshot wounds. He died on the spot. Constable Noel Maitland was slapped with an additional charge this morning when he appeared in the Home Circuit Court in downtown Kingston. In opposing his application for bail, prosecutors told the court that in addition to the charge of murder, the constable has been charged with preventing the lawful burial of a corpse. Maitland is charged with the murder of 23-year-old social media influencer Donnelly Donaldson. Miss Donaldson's mother, who was present in court, broke down in tears at the disclosure of the new charge against Maitland. And the prosecution also outlined chilling details of the case of murder against Constable Noel Maitland. The case involves a car wash, a truck driver, a series of CCTV cameras, and what has been described as a red or brown couch. For the first time, the court heard details of the prosecution's case against the police constable. In opposing the application for bail, prosecutors told Presiding Justice Vinette Graham Allen that on the afternoon of July 13, Maitland allegedly went to a hardware store along Constant Spring Road in St. Andrew. While at the store, prosecutors alleged that he entered into a contractual arrangement with a truck driver to transport a couch from his New Kingston apartment to Halfway Tree. The truck driver reportedly drove behind Maitland to his apartment complex. The prosecutors told the court that upon arrival at the complex, the truck driver observed the accused policeman and another man enter an apartment unit on the second floor of the complex. They then emerged from the apartment with what was being described as a red or brown couch. The couch was reportedly loaded into the driver's truck. The accused then allegedly led the truck driver to a car wash along Lyndhurst Road. On arrival at the car wash, prosecutors alleged that the accused policeman got out of his car and the two others followed. The movement of the accused and the two other men was reportedly captured on CCTV cameras at multiple locations. The court was told earlier in the day on July 13 that Maitland allegedly went to the car wash and made inquiries about having his couch washed. He allegedly told the car wash attendant he was taking the couch to be washed because his cousin suffered an injury to his hand, causing him to, quote, bleed out a little in part of the settee, end quote. As the prosecution outlined the allegations against him, Maitland repeatedly whispered to his attorney. The prosecutors alleged that on the evening of July 13 at about 7 p.m., the accused policeman placed a phone call to a resident in the New Kingston area. The prosecutors told the court that Maitland allegedly told the resident he had concerns that the cameras owned by the resident may have recorded him walking by with a spliff. The prosecution is alleging that Maitland told the resident he was concerned the footage may jeopardize his prospects for an impending promotion. The prosecution told the court that Maitland allegedly told the resident he wanted the footage deleted. The resident reportedly refused to comply. On July 14, prosecutors are alleging that Maitland reportedly went to another resident's apartment and explained that someone who was allegedly with him had gone missing. He allegedly asked the resident to see the footage of July 12. The prosecution alleges that Maitland was reportedly shown parts of the recording. The prosecution told the court that Maitland allegedly expressed a desire to see the footage deleted. The court was told by prosecutors that upon viewing the footage, Maitland was allegedly seen arriving at the apartment complex with a young lady described as having long hair. The prosecutors allege that Maitland was then seen leaving the complex unaccompanied. The prosecution is alleging that Maitland called the resident who owned the CCTV footage twice on the 15th of July and 3 times on the 16th of July. It's being alleged that the accused policeman expressed concern that the police may want to see the footage. The resident who owns the CCTV cameras allegedly told the police investigators that he felt pressured. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, Lenworth Fulton, says the estimated damage to the agriculture sector since the passing of Tropical Storm Ian is expected to increase to over $300 million. It was recently disclosed by Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Pernell Charles Jr. that damage to the sector caused by flooding is more than $200 million. Mr. Fulton says crops may not show signs of damage immediately after severe weather. The JAS president says assistance will be given to the affected farmers by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, and the JAS. He says financial help will mostly be done through RADA, and he also adds that majority of the assistance will not be financial but through the provision of goods. In the meantime, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Pernell Charles Jr. says the government is taking more steps to prevent illegal and unregulated fishing practices within Jamaica's coastal areas. Minister Charles Jr. spoke at the handover ceremony of over 50 sanctuary boundary marker buoys to the Caribbean Coastal Area Management Foundation. The buoys are valued at more than 1.1 million Jamaican dollars. The minister says the markers will impact illegal and unreported fishing practices. Minister Charles Jr. also added that interference with the sanctuary can attract significant fines of up to a maximum of $3 million in a parish court or 3 years imprisonment. Former Justice Ministry employee Romario Keith Gopal is to reappear in the St. Catherine Circuit Court on Friday on charges of office breaking, larceny, and arson. Gopal's case was transferred from the St. Catherine Parish Court on Monday to a voluntary bill of indictment. The allegations are that on July 24, fire destroyed a section of the St. Catherine Parish Court office at Emancipation Square in Spanish Town. Investigations revealed that the perpetrator forcibly entered the building, stole monies from a safe, and set fire to the property to cover the crime. A probe was launched, which resulted in Gopal being arrested on suspicion of office breaking, larceny, and arson. He was charged by the Spanish Town Police following a question and answer session. The family of Troy Craddock is offering a $100,000 reward to anyone with information leading to his safe return home. Craddock, an animator from Upper Mall Road in Kingston 11, has been missing for 2 weeks and his family is desperate to find him. A family member expressed that his grandmother is very sick and is old, and Craddock is her favorite grandchild. The family desperately needs some kind of information regarding his whereabouts and are willing to give a reward. The relatives said Craddock left home to meet with someone carrying only his laptop. His 19-year-old daughter, who was the last person to see him before he went missing, and according to the relative, she is very distraught. Meanwhile, his relative, who describes the 37-year-old as a loner, is puzzled at his disappearance. The relative added that Craddock was trying to push his career forward with his music and animation and just started his YouTube channel. Senior Superintendent of Police Kirk Ricketts, the commanding officer for the St. Andrews South Division, could not provide a comment on the investigation. The second man seen on a video last week Monday trying to remove the lock on the gate to the Bog Walk Gorge has been charged. He is 52-year-old Garth Brown, a driver and mechanic of Crescent District, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Mr. Brown has been charged with conspiracy, malicious destruction of property, and accessory before and after the fact. He is also charged with breaching the ODPEM Act after entering the restricted area. He was offered $100,000 station bail. Mr. Brown is scheduled to appear before the St. Catherine Parish Court on Thursday. His co-accused, 45-year-old Glenore Denton, an excavator operator of West Prospect in Bog Walk, was charged last Thursday by detectives attached to the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch. The men were seen on surveillance video attempting to remove the padlock to the gate, which was closed after the gorge became flooded during heavy rains associated with Tropical Storm Ian. A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in sections of Seaview Gardens in the St. Andrews South Division. The curfew began at 6 p.m. on Monday and will remain in effect until 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October 5. The boundaries of the curfew are as follows. North along Leland Avenue from White Sea Drive to Yellow Sea Drive. East along Yellow Sea Drive from Leland Avenue to Imaginary Line A. South along Imaginary Line A from Yellow Sea Drive to White Sea Drive, and west along White Sea Drive from Imaginary Line A to Leland Avenue. The police are reminding persons within the boundaries of the curfew that during the hours of the curfew, they are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. Residents of the Southwood community in Clarendon took to the streets on Monday demanding the replacement of a bridge. The bridge linking the Green River and Southwood communities was washed away in 2017 in a flood. Last Thursday, a woman and a child, in their attempt to cross the river to get to their homes, were swept away by the Rio Minnow and had to be rescued. Councillor for the Frankfield Division, Clive Mundell, who empathized with the plight of the residents, described the absence of a bridge as a big disgrace. Brian Phipps, a resident of Southwood District, also known as Damhead, said many children and elderly people live in the community and he worries about what would happen in an emergency. Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Clarendon Northwest, Philip Henriquez, said since taking over in late 2020, he has been representing like crazy. Noting that the bridge was washed away while Richard Azan was the MP, he said immediately after taking over, he started pushing for a new bridge. However, he noted that the allocation of funds for the project is out of his hands. The nation's firearm regulator, the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, is expected to add another layer of scrutiny for the granting of gun permits when it introduces a written component to the list of requirements for applicants. A source at the agency said come January, Jamaicans seeking a firearm permit will be required to pass a theory-based exam before being authorized to use a weapon. The decision comes amid increased concerns about the misuse of weapons by licensed carriers. However, it is not clear whether the new regulation is also expected to impact those already in possession of permits when seeking renewals. According to the Gleaner source, the entity receives reports of infractions monthly of licensed users engaging in activities that contravene use of force standards. Currently, the FLA instructs permit holders on how to use weapons. That is followed by a practical test before approval is granted. The projected implementation hints at the FLA's push to scour its image amid claims of entrenched corruption at the entity, including several gun permit scandals where approvals were granted for applicants with criminal antecedents. Noted criminal defense lawyer Peter Champagny, KC, is not in favor of the decision, noting that there is no clear reason for such a measure. Champagny argued that there is no reason why an assessment cannot be done during training by the instructor. He said it is his opinion that it is more a mistrust of the trainer's ability to impart the information and for the trainer to certify an applicant. On the other hand, his colleague, criminal defense attorney Bert Samuels, said the regulation would be welcome as several countries headed by the U.S. move to tighten gun control measures. The declared conservative argued that the requirement would be another layer of protection for both the user and the general public. He added that the requirement is likely to lead to a reduction in the misuse of firearms by licensed holders. In July, road rage triggered a shootout between two licensed firearm holders in downtown Montego Bay. And last week, a 15-year-old Wolmer's Boy student, Raheem Shaw, was shot dead by his father at their home in Helsha, St. Catherine. Raheem, who was said to be returning home sometime after 3 a.m., was reportedly mistaken for an intruder. And in business news, Courtly Hospitality Group's managing director, Kevin Hendrickson, has been named Caribbean Hotelier of the Year. He was announced as the new recipient of the title during an awards luncheon at the Caribe Hilton in Puerto Rico on Monday. After graduating university with a business administration degree, Hendrickson proved his mettle as general manager for Courtly Manor Hotel on Trafalgar Road, which was bought as an investment property in 1981 by National Continental Corporation under the chairmanship of his father. In 1996, the by-now seasoned hotelier bought the Marcus Garvey building, nestled between the Pegasus and former Windham hotels, and with a USAID development loan, converted it 11 months later into a new home for the Courtly Hotel and Suites. Hendrickson is currently leading a massive multi-billion-dollar redevelopment and integration of 3 of his hotel holdings on Knutsford Boulevard in the New Kingston Business District. And Deputy Commissioner of Operations at Jamaica Customs Agency, JCA, Marlon Lowe, says work is being undertaken to incorporate drones and canine detection in JCA's border security strategy by 2025. Both programs are now said to be in the startup phase and form part of efforts by the agency to broaden non-intrusive inspection tactics when interacting with stakeholders at both the ports and airports. The drone program is expected to assist with patrolling the trafficking of contraband. JCA is still determining a budget for the program and the agencies it may be partnering with on the initiatives, one of which might be the Jamaica Constabulary Force, which already uses canines in law enforcement. So far, the JCA says it is already seeing positive results from the digital elements of non-intrusive inspection programs through its automated system for customs data, or ASICUDA, for example, which allows for more efficient data collection that in turn helps to drive policy making. Additionally, JCA has now procured a scanning system for high-risk cargo. The next step for the JCA is to implement minimum security guidelines at various warehouses shortly, along with an advanced passenger information and passenger day recognition system, which in part will fast-track the processing of individuals who have made proper declaration of the items brought with them into the country. It will also allow the JCA to get more detailed information on travelers. In the region, Trinidad and Tobago police shot and killed 4 of 7 gunmen who broke into a family home in Mayaro. Acting Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob confirmed last evening that Eastern Division Police were searching for 3 other suspects who escaped through bushes after police killed 4 of their companions. Police said one of the victims, the owner of a Chinese restaurant, left his home to drop his daughter off at school, but when he returned home around 9:30 a.m., he found his wife and a 17-year-old son on the ground with their hands tied and tape over their mouths. The gunman approached him within seconds and ordered him to the floor. However, police had already received a tip-off about the home invasion, and officers entered the premises within minutes. On approaching, the bandits shot at the officers, who retaliated with gunfire of their own, killing 4 of the men. 3 more bandits ran through the back of the community and jumped over the fence. And in international news, nearly a week after Hurricane Ian smashed into Florida and carved a path of destruction into the Carolinas, hundreds of thousands of people faced another warm day. On Tuesday, people were without electricity as rescuers pressed on with their search for anyone trapped inside flooded and damaged homes. At least 78 people have been confirmed dead from the storm, 71 in Florida, 4 in North Carolina, and 3 in Cuba since Ian made landfall on the Caribbean island on September 27, and in Florida a day later. The number of storm-related deaths has risen in recent days amid the search and rescue efforts, and it could increase further as authorities comb through some of the hardest-hit areas of Florida. On Monday, officials reported that more than 1,900 people have been rescued throughout the state. About 430,000 homes and businesses in Florida were still without power early on Tuesday. North Korea has conducted its most recent weapons test, launching its longest-range nuclear-capable ballistic missile, which flew over Japan and could reach Guam, a U.S. Pacific territory. In a show of strength against the missile launch, South Korean and U.S. militaries launched fighter jets which fired weapons at a target off South Korea's west coast. As North Korea pushes to develop a fully-fledged nuclear arsenal capable of reaching the U.S. mainland and its Pacific allies, they have test-fired about 40 missiles over about 20 different launch events this year. A spokesperson for the U.S. National Security Council noted that the United States strongly condemned North Korea's dangerous and reckless decision to launch what it described as a long-range ballistic missile over Japan. And former U.S. President Donald Trump is suing CNN for $475 million, claiming that the network has defamed him in an effort to short-circuit any future political campaign. Trump's lawsuit claims the phrase "the big lie" has been used in reference to him more than 7,700 times on CNN since January 2021. Mr. Trump on Monday suggested that lawsuits would be filed against other news agencies, while also stating that he may bring appropriate action against the House committee investigating the January 6 attack on the Capitol by his supporters. CNN said it had no comment on the lawsuit. And in sports, noted chartered accountant and financial expert Dennis Chung is reportedly set to become the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF's new general secretary. Nationwide online news sources say discussions are underway between Chung and the JFF over the appointment. Neither party has commented publicly on the matter. The man who Chung is set to replace, Dalton Wint, has been at the center of controversy in recent months, with the national senior men's team recently refusing to play unless he resigned. The player revolt was triggered by an administrative error, causing several of the players to be stranded in transit following a 1-1 draw with Suriname in June Nations League fixture. Wind, who had been in the position since October 2017, gave a commitment to resign following the incident. Chung, an avid cyclist and former president of the Jamaica Cycling Federation, has developed a reputation of turning around problem entities. He was instrumental in bringing the finances of the National Solid Waste Management Agency up to date following his appointment to their board. Chung has an extensive background in business, holding leadership posts with the private sector organization of Jamaica, Supreme Ventures Limited, and Petrodram in recent years. And that's it for today's news roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.
Teach them! Hey, yo, hello! Send the message and make it reach them. It's teach them. Right here, Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Like the video before you go. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And remember to share the video with your friends and family. And browse the channel for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friends.
Teach them!